For some, maxing is the end of their RuneScape journey, while others say maxing is when the game truly begins. While there's some truth to both of these statements, is maxing really worth your time in 2023? Let's find out, so whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I maxed back in March 2019 and it's still one of my favorite achievements to date. That feeling of having completed the game is something no 120 cape or boss drop can ever come close to replicating. But why? Why did maxing feel so special to me? Before the PVM hub was added in 2020, obtaining the max cape would provide you with something newer players might take for granted today, being the boss portal. Yup, before the PVM hub was added, teleporting to each boss easily and quickly would either require specific items or require you to obtain a cape that took hundreds if not over 1,000 hours to obtain, especially when including making money for those pesky buyable skills that nowadays seem to be significantly cheaper for the experience per hour you're getting. I remember smithing and crafting costing as much if not more than Herblore did unless you were to do the medium speed methods like battle staves. I reckon maxing would cost you around 500 to 1000 mil, while nowadays it would be significantly cheaper, and I'd be willing to bet on that, and perhaps I'll even make a video covering how much max costs nowadays. Now, the boss portal allowed you to teleport to different bosses and certain other areas the PVM hub still doesn't have access to today, like Bork, Errats, Tormented Demons, and even Glazors. Well, actually, you can teleport to Errats by using the Mazcap teleport, which would be the better spot anyway, and with the Arch Glazor teleport, you're also able to access Glazors. Even though that's a thing, you still have Bork and Tormented Demons going for the max guild, and yes, I really need to do those quests. I keep putting them off. Comparisons aside, being able to instantly teleport to a boss like Nex was amazing, and since Nex was considered to be one of the main ways to make money as an entry high level PVMer, it was a huge time saver not having to walk as much. The point I'm trying to make is that the boss portal was incredibly useful and easily the biggest quality of life upgrade the game had to offer, albeit locked behind a considerable grind. This in turn was the main reason I wanted to max at that time, so I could finally play the game, if you will. That in itself is a pretty ridiculous statement people like to throw around, but there's definitely some truth in it. Once you've maxed, you no longer need to worry about leveling your skills or running to those bosses like a mere noob. No, your 1,000,000,000 hour investment allowed you to pummel the crap out of Krill without needing to walk, a reflection of your real life self during the maxing journey. Now, I'm making this joke right now, but I completed the grind like everyone else, and I did not do it standing up. As a matter of fact, I did a large portion of my grind during my classes, and I very vividly remember two good friends of mine not understanding why I only clicked every couple of minutes. I mean, how do you explain to someone that you're playing a game by not actually playing it, but that it can also be quite an intense game when actively playing? The way I explained RuneScape was that it's like Cookie Clicker combined with Call of Duty, which isn't exactly the best analogy, but I did think it worked. Anyways, while the boss portal was one of the main reasons I decided to max, it definitely wasn't the reason why it felt so special. The reason I believe maxing felt so special is because it was, and still is, a milestone that gives you an essence of completion, as in you beat the game. While there are many more adventures beyond maxing, it's one of the few milestones that really made me feel like, hey, I did this, younger me would be proud. A childhood dream obtained. Something that of course was celebrated with a max cape party, and for those of you that remember this, because I did livestream this at I think like 2,000 subscribers, well, you're an OG. When players say that the game truly begins after maxing, what they actually mean is that you're free from most of the mundane daily tasks and essentially have access to everything in the game, given that you've completed the quest. There are of course exceptions for things and skills that go beyond level 99, which is why I said most things. You're able to go train a skill beyond 99 without worrying about getting that last divination level to max. You're free to go to PVM as much as you want without worrying about an unfinished account, so to speak. With the boss portal, of course. I'm sure many of you close to max have felt the need to finish it, despite maxing maybe not being as useful as it was before. Whenever a new skill releases, you're able to focus on just that one skill to remax, giving you space and time. On the other hand, you might not like training one skill all the way up to level 99 without doing anything else, but if you wanted to, you could. Maxing also has the benefit of you being able to use a grand total 3 skill cape perks instead of the usual 2 with an expert skill cape or a single perk when wearing a skill cape. However, once these perks have been added to your max cape, they are uniquely turned into passes that work with any cape slot item worn. The only other way to get a passive skill cape perk is the skill cape stand in Anachronia, requiring the tier 3 player lodge in your Anachronia base camp. Now, some maxing benefits are kind of outdated nowadays, as you're able to do so without maxing at all. For example, being able to decant your potions at the PVM hub or on the Grand Exchange instead of the Max Guild, and in case of the PVM hub, you can even stitch up jellies, which is a feature the Max Guild doesn't even have. Ironically, the PVM hub is just straight up better than the Max Guild, given that you have all of the unlocks. You're able to restore your prayer, grab a permanent bonfire boost. You pretty much have everything the Max Guild has and more, with the only real exception being the permanent bonfire to use for fire making and cooking. But let's be honest, you could just use that in Providenas or in Yeti Town, or just place down a portable brazier and train it for Renfree instead. And that brings me to my next point: is maxing even worth it anymore? From a reward standpoint, all you're really getting is an instant Grand Exchange teleport and the passive skill cape perks, which admittedly are quite nice, as being able to use the ranged, invention, defense, and or strength skill cape perks is quite a nice buff. All other rewards are obtainable without maxing at all. Now, maxing has become a lot cheaper and, depending on the skill, a decent amount faster as well. Certain skills have gained faster methods in the past 5 years, and by using just your free daily keys, you're able to gain a considerable amount of experience in the form of MTX items, bonus XP, and lamps. There's also more events than ever, including currency events, yak tracks, which provide a load of MTX items and XP buffs, and, of course, the biggest buff of them all, a total of 4 double XP events every single year. This doesn't mean that maxing isn't hard anymore or costs no money, as you're still going to need to dedicate both to obtaining a max cape, but it's certainly faster than 5 years ago. Feeling of achievement and completion aside, I would say that the current game doesn't really entice you to max. You don't necessarily need 3 passive skill cape perks, but they're nice to have. In Melee's case, the Strength Cape perk is quite important for the Dismember ability, so if you have the Melee Zuck Cape, you'd want to have the Passive Skill Cape perk, but until then you could also just wear the Strength Cape, for example. The Sign of Life perk from the Defense Cape is arguably one of the most useful PVM perks, but you could also just wear the cape. It doesn't really become an issue until you start getting the high level capes you'd want to wear over a skill cape, or you're going to want to have those skill cape perks as a passive, but even then I'd say that maxing nowadays is more of a little bonus rather than a necessity. You can kill the highest level bosses over and over without ever needing to get level 99 in every single skill. You can enjoy any skill you like without getting level 99 in all stats. So to answer the question, is maxing your account worth it in 2023? No, I don't think it's worth maxing your RuneScape account in 2023 from an input-output perspective. I do think it's a good idea to consider maxing to experience the journey and then reap the benefits at the end of that journey. It can't just all be PVM, am I right? Embrace the journey and do not forget to enjoy it.